Welcome back everyone. Today we are going to start chapter 11, force and pressure. So in class 7th you have learned how objects move. Do you recall how we can decide whether an object is moving faster than the other? What does the distance moved by an object in unit time indicate? You also know that a moving object like a ball rolling on the ground slows down. Sometimes it may change its direction of motion. It is also possible that the ball may slow down and also change its direction. So you have seen that things. So have you ever wonder what makes an object slow down or go faster or change its direction of motion? So let us recall some of our everyday experiences. What do we do to make a football move? What do you do to make a moving ball move faster? So how does the goalkeeper stop a ball and a hockey player changes the direction of the moving ball with a flick of the stick? So how do fielders stop a ball hit by a batsman? So you can see in figure 11.1, in all these situations, the ball is either made to move faster or slower or its direction of motion is changed. We often say that a force has been applied on a ball when it is kicked, pushed, thrown or flicked. What is the force? What can we do to the bodies on which it is applied? We shall seek answer to such questions in this chapter. So 11.1, force, a push or a pull. So action like picking, opening, shutting, kicking, hitting, lifting, flicking, pushing, pulling are often used to describe certain tasks. So each of these tasks or actions usually result in some kind of change in the state of motion of an object. Can these terms be replaced with one or more terms? Let us find out. So you can see the figure. So activity 11.1, table 11.1 gives some examples of familiar situations involving motion of objects. You can add more such situations or replace those given here. Try to identify actions involved in each case as a push or a pull and record your observation. One example has been given to help you. So you can see identify action as push or pull. So you can see description of situation is given here. Action is pushing, pulling, picking, hitting, lifting, lowering, flying, kicking, throwing, shutting, flicking. So you can see here action can be grouped as push and pull. So you can see moving of a book placed on a table, pushing, pulling, lifting, and then push is yes and pull is also yes. Opening or shutting of door, same here, pushing, pulling, then here also push and pull. So you can fill other columns also. So do you notice that each of the action can be grouped as a pull or a push or both? Can we infer from this that to move an object it has to be push or pulled? In science, a push or a pull of an object is called a force. So here is a definition of force. Thus we can say that the motion impacted two objects was due to the action of a force. When does a force come into play? Let us find out. So Pahili says, I learnt in class 6 that a magnet attracts a piece of iron towards it. Its attraction also a pull. What about repulsion between similar poles of two magnets? Is it a push or a pull? So forces are due to an interaction. So you can see here, suppose a man is standing behind a stationary car. So as shown in figure 11.2a, will the car move down to his presence? Suppose the man now begins to push the car as in figure 11.2b, that is he applies a force on it, the car may begin to move. So you can see in the direction to the applied force. So he is applying the force towards front, so the car is moving to the front. Note that the man has to push the car to make it move. So you can see here figure 11.3 shows that the situation may be familiar to you. You can decide who is pulling and who is pushing in this case. So in figure 11.3a, both the girls appear to push each other, while the pair of girls in figure 11.3b are trying to pull each other. Similarly, the cow and the man in figure 11.3 appears to pull each other. So you can see here. So the girls in the two situations shown here are applying force on each other. Is it true for the man and the cow? For the example, we can infer that at least two objects must interact for a force to come into play. Thus, an interaction of one object with another object results in a force between the two objects. So, exploring forces. So, let us try learn more about forces. Activity 11.2, choose a heavy object like a table or a box which you can move only by pushing hard. Try to push it all by yourself. Can you move it? Now ask one of your friend to help you in pushing in the same direction, as you can see in the figure 11.4a. So they are pushing in the same direction. Is it easier to move now? Can you explain why? Now push the same object but ask your friend to push it from the opposite direction. So you can see in figure 11.4 they are pushing in the opposite directions, not the direction in which it moves. Can you guess which one of you is applying a larger force? So have you ever seen a game of tug of war? In this game, two teams pull at a rope in opposite directions. So as you can see in 11.5, member of both the teams try to pull the rope in that direction. Sometimes the rope does not move. It is not similar to the situation shown in figure 11.3b. The team that pulls harder, that is applies the larger force, finally wins the game. What do these examples suggest about the nature of force? Forces applied on an object in the same direction add to one another. Now recall what happened when you and your friend pushed the heavy box in the same direction in the activity 11.2. If the two forces act in the opposite direction of an object, the net force acting on it is the difference between the two forces. So you should remember that when the force is applied on the opposite direction of the object, then it is the difference between the two objects. So it is the net force. What did you observe in activity 11.2 when both of you were pushing the box from opposite direction? Recall that in the tug of war, when two teams pull each other equally hard, the rope does not move in the any direction. So we learned that a force could be larger or smaller than the other or equal to other. So the strength of the force is usually expressed by its magnitude. So we have also to specify the direction in which the forces act. Also it is if the direction or the magnitude of the applied force changes, its effects also changes. So pyresis, does it mean that the net force on an object is zero if the two forces acting on it in opposite direction are equal? So in general, more than one force may be acting on an object. However, the effect on the object is due to the net force acting on it. So effects depend upon the net force. So 11.4, a force can change the state of motion. So let us now find out what happens when a force acts on an object. So activity 11.3, take a rubber ball and place it on a level surface such as a tabletop or concrete floor. Now gently push the ball along the level surface. So you can see in 11.6, does the ball begin to move? Push the ball again while it is still moving. Is there any change in its speed? Does it increase or decrease? Next, place your palm in front of the moving ball. Remove the palm as soon as the ball moving ball touches it. Does your palm apply the force on the ball? What happens to the speed of the ball now? Does it increase or decrease? What would happen if you let your palm hold the ball? So you can see in 11.6, a ball at rest begin to move when a force is applied on it. So you might recall similar situation. For example, while taking a penalty kick in football, the player applies a force on the ball. Before being hit, the ball was in rest and so its speed was zero. The applied force makes the ball move towards the goal. Suppose the goalkeeper dives and jumps up to save the goal. By the action, the goalkeeper tries to apply a force on the moving ball. The force applied by him can stop or deflect the ball, saving a goal being scored. If the goalkeeper succeeds in stopping the ball, its speed decreases to zero. So it is clear these observations suggest that a force applied on an object may change its speed if the force applied on the object is in the direction of its motion. The speed of its object increases. If the force is applied in the direction opposite to the direction of the motion, then it's result in the decrease of the speed of the object. Say Boju says, if I have seen children competing with one another in moving a rubber tire or a ring by pushing it, you can see it in figure 11.7. I now understand why the speed of the tire increases whenever it is pushed. So you can see a boy, to move a tire faster, it has to be pushed repeatedly. So Paheli is curious to know whether application of force can only be changed the speed of an object. Let us find out. 11.4 activity. Take a ball and place it on a level surface as you did in activity 11.3. Make the ball move by giving it a push. So you can see in figure 0.8a. Now place a ruler in its path as shown in figure 11.8b. In doing so, would you apply a force on the moving ball? Does the ball continue to move in the same direction after it strikes the ruler? Repeat the activity and try to obstruct the moving ball by placing the ruler in such a way that it makes different angles to its path. In each case, note your observation about the direction of motion of the ball after it strikes the ruler. So you can see here, A shows that a ball set in motion by pushing it along a level surface, and B shows that the direction of motion of the ball after it strikes the ruler placed in its path. So you can see the direction is changed. So let us consider now more examples. In a game of volleyball, player often pushes the ball to their teammates to make a winning move. Sometimes the ball is returned to the other side of the court by pushing or smashing it. In cricket, a batsman plays his or her shot by applying a force on the ball with the bat. Is there any change in the direction of motion of the ball in these cases? In all the cases above, the speed and the direction of the moving ball change due to the application of a force. Can you give a few more examples of this kind? A change in either the speed of an object or in its direction of motion, or both, is described as the change in its state of motion. Thus, a force may bring a change in the state of motion of an object. So, state of motion, the state of motion of an object is described by its speed and the direction of motion. The state of rest is considered to be the state of zero speed. An object may be at rest or in motion. Both are its states of motion. So, does it mean that the application of a force would always result in a change in the state of motion of the object? Let us find out. It is a common experience that many times application of force does not result in change of the state of motion. For example, heavy box may not move at all even if you apply the maximum force that you can exert. Again, no effect of force is observed when you try to push the ball. So 11.5, force can change the shape of the object. So you can see here, activity 11.5, some situation have been given in column 1 of table 11.2 in which objects are not free to move. Column 2 of the table suggests that the manner in which a force can be applied on each object, while column 3 shows a diagram of the action. So try to observe the effect of the force in as many situations as possible. You can also try add similar situation using available material from your environment. Note your observation in column 4 and 5. So you can see here the lump of dough in a plate and how the force is applied. You can see pressing it down by your hand. Here is the diagram. So change in motion and change in shape. So you can see here. Now spring fixed to the seat of the bicycle by sitting on the seat. You can see the example here, diagram. So rubber band suspended from a hook, nail fixed on a ball. So you can see a rubber band is by hanging a weight on by pulling its free end. So plastic or metal scale placed between two bricks by putting a weight at the center of the scale. So you can see here the diagram is given as an example. What do you conclude from the observation noted in table 11.2? What happens when you apply a force on an inflated balloon by pressing it between your palm? What happens to the shape of the ball of dough when it is rolled to make a chapati? What happens when you press a rubber ball placed on a table? In all these examples, you saw that the application of a force on an object may change its shape. Having performed all the above activities, you would have to realize that a force may make an object move from rest, may change the speed of the object if it is moving, may change the direction of the motion of an object, maybe bring about a change in the shape of the object, may cause some or all these effects. So while a force may cause one or more of these effects, it is important to remember that none of these actions can take place without the action of a force. None of this can happen without the action of a force. Thus, an object cannot move by itself, it cannot change its speed by itself, it cannot change its direction by itself, and it can neither change its shape by itself. So, contact force, muscular force. Can you push or lift a book lying on a table without touching it? Can you lift a bucket of water without holding it? Generally, to apply a force on an object, your body has to be in contact with the object. The contact may also be with the help of a stick or a piece of rope. When we push an object like a school bag or lift a bucket of water, where does the force come from? This force is caused by the action of muscles in our body. The force resulting due to the action of muscle is known as the muscular force. It is a muscular force that enables us to perform all the activities involving movement or bending of our body. In class 7, you have learned that in the process of digestion, the food gets pushed through the alimentary canal, and then could it be the muscular force that does it? You can also know that the lung expand and contract while we inhale and exhale air during breathing. Where are these muscles located which make the breathing possible? Can you list a few more examples of the force exerted by the muscles in our body? Animals also make use of muscular force to carry out their physical activities and other tasks. Animals like bullocks, horses, donkeys, and camels are used to perform various tasks for us. In performing this task, they use muscular forces. So you can see a man is sitting on a bullock cart. So it is said muscular force of animals is used to carry out many difficult tasks. So since muscular force can be applied only when it is in contact with an object, it is also called contact force. Are there other types of contact force? Let us find out. Friction. So recall some of your experiences. A ball rolling along the ground gradually slows down and finally comes to rest. When we stop pedaling a bicycle, it gradually slows down and finally comes to stop. A car or a scooter also comes to rest once its engine is switched off. Similarly, a boat comes to rest if we stop rowing it. Can you add such more examples? Experience. So in all these situations, no force appear to be acting on the object, yet the speed gradually decreases and they come to rest. What causes change in the state of motion? Could some force be acting on them? Can you guess the direction in which the force must be acting in each case? The force responsible for the changing of the motion of an object is, in all these examples, is the force of friction. It is the force of friction between the surface of the ball and the ground that brings the moving ball to rest. Similarly, friction between water and the boat brings it to a stop once you stop rowing. So the force of friction always acts on all the moving objects, and its direction is always opposite to the direction of the motion. So you should always remember that the force of friction is always opposite to the direction of the motion. Since the force of friction arises due to contact between the surface, it is also example of contact force. You will learn this about this force in chapter 12, that is the next chapter. You may be wondering whether it is essential for the agent applying a force on an object be always in contact with it. Let us find out. So non-contact force, a magnetic force. So 11.6 activity. Take a pair of bar magnet, place the longer side of one of the magnets over 3 round shaped pencils and wooden rulers as shown in the figure 11.10. Now bring one end of the other magnet near the end of the magnet placed on the ruler. Make sure that the two magnets do not touch each other. Observe what happens. Next, bring the other end of the magnet near the and same end of the magnet placed on the ruler. So you can see in 11.10 figure. Note what happens to the magnet placed on the ruler every time another magnet is brought near. So you can see here. So 11.10, observing attraction and repulsion between the two magnets. So does the magnet on the roller begins to move when the other magnet is brought near it? Does it always move in the direction of the approaching magnet? So what does do these observations suggest? Does it mean that the same force must be acting between the two magnets? So you have learnt in class 6 that like poles of the two magnets repel each other and the unlike pole attract each other. Attraction or repulsion between objects can also be seen as a form of push or pull. Do you have to bring the magnets in contact to observe the force between them? A magnet can exert a force on another magnet without being in contact with it. The force exerted by a magnet is an example of non-contact force. Similarly, the force exerted by a magnet on a piece of iron is also a non-contact force. Electrostatic force, activity 11.7. Take a plastic straw and cut it into nearly 2 equal pieces. Suspend one of the piece to the edge of the table with the help of a piece of a thread. You can see in 11.11 figure. Now hold the other piece of straw in your hand and rub it free and with a sheet of paper. Bring the rubbed end of the straw near the suspended straw. Make sure that the two pieces do not touch each other. What do you observe? Next, rub the free end of the suspended piece of straw with a sheet of paper. Again, bring the piece of straw that was rubbed earlier with a paper near the free end of the suspended straw. What do you observe now? So you can see what they are doing. 11.11. A straw rubbed with a paper attracts another straw but repels if it has also been rubbed with a sheet of paper. And so the straw is said to have acquired electrostatic charge after it has been rubbed with a sheet of paper. So you must have done that. Such a straw is an example of a charged body. The force exerted by a charged body on another charged or uncharged body is known as electrostatic force. This force comes into play even when the bodies are not in contact. The electrostatic force, therefore, is another example of a non-contact force. You will learn about this in electric charges in chapter 15. Gravitational force. You know that a coin or a pen falls to the ground when it slips from your hand. Leaves and fruits also fall to the ground when they are detached from the plant. Have you ever wondered why it is so? When the coin is held in your hand, it is at rest. As soon as it is released, it begins to move downwards. It is clear that the state of motion of the coin undergoes a change. Can this happen without a force acting on it? Which is this force? So object or things fall towards the earth because it pulls them. This force is called the force of gravity or just gravity. This is an attractive force. The force of gravity acts on all objects. The force of gravity acts on all of us all that time without our being aware of it. Water begin to flow towards the ground as soon as we open the tap. Water in reverse flows downwards due to the force of gravity. Gravity is not a property of the earth alone. In fact, every object in the universe, whether small or large, exert a force on every other object. This force is known as the gravitational force. So here is 11.8 pressure. You have learnt in class 7 that the strong winds during a storm or a cyclone can blow away even the rooftops. You also learned that wind and cyclones are caused by the difference in air pressure. Is there any relation between the pressure and force? Let us find out. Try to push a nail with a wooden plank by its head. So you can see here, do you succeed? Try now to push the nail by the pointed end. So you can see it in figure 11.12. Can you do this in this time? So you can see here 11.12, pushing a nail into a wooden plank. So try cutting vegetables with a blunt knife and then with a sharp knife. Which is easier? Do you get the feeling that the area over which the force is applied, for example the pointed end of the nail, plays a role in making this task easier? The force acting on a unit area of surface is called the pressure. So pressure is equal to force upon area on which it acts. So at this stage we consider only those forces which act perpendicular to the surface on which the pressure is to be computed. So Paheli says, I now understand why porters place a round piece of cloth on their head when they have to carry heavy loads. So you can see in 11.13 a porter is carrying heavy load. So by doing this they increases the area of contact of the load with their head. So the pressure on their head is reduced and they find it easier to carry the load. So you can see a porter carrying a heavy load was shown in the figure. So now note that the area is in the denominator of the above expression. So the smaller the area, the larger the pressure on the surface. For the same force, the area of the pointed end of the nail is much smaller than that of its head. The same force applied produces a pressure sufficient to push the pointed end of the nail into the wooden plank. Can you explain now why shoulder bags are provided with broad straps and not thin straps, and why the tools meant for cutting and piercing always have sharp edges? So do liquids and gases also exert pressure? Does it also depend on the area on which the force acts? Let us find out. So 11.9, pressure exerted by liquids and gases. Activity 11.8, take a transparent glass tube or a plastic pipe. The length of the pipe tube should be about 25 cm and its diameter should be 5 to 7.5 cm. Also take a piece of thin sheet of a good quality rubber, say rubber balloon. Stretch the rubber sheet tightly over one end of the pipe. Hold the pipe at the middle, keeping it vertical position. So you can see it in figure 11.14. Ask one of your friend to pour some water in the pipe. Does the rubber sheet bulges out? So note also that the height of the water column in the pipe pours some more water. Observe again the bulge in the rubber sheet and the height of the water column in the pipe. Repeat the process a few more times. Can you see any relationship between the amount of bulge in the rubber sheet and the height of the water column in the pipe? So you can see in the figure, pressure exerted by water at the bottom of the container depends on the height of the column. So activity 11.9, take a plastic bottle. You can take a discarded water or soft drink bottle Fix a cylindrical glass tube a few centimeter long near its bottom as shown in figure 11.15. You can do it by slightly heating one end of the glass tube and then quickly inserting it near the bottom of the bottle. And now make sure that the water does not leak from the joint. If there is any leakage, seal it with the molten wax. Cover the mouth of the glass tube with a thin rubber sheet as you did in 11.8 activity. Now fill the bottle up to half with water. What do you observe? Why does the rubber sheet fixed in the glass tube bulge this time? So you can see, pour some more water in the bottle. Is there any change in the bulge of the rubber sheet? So you can see water exert pressure on the wall of the container. So you can see in figure 11.15. Note that the rubber sheet has been fixed on a side of the container and not at the bottom. Does the bulge in the rubber sheet in this case indicate that the water exert pressure on the side of the container? Let us investigate further. Activity 11.10. Take a empty plastic bottle or a cylindrical container. You take a used tin can or a used plastic bottle. Drill the 4 hole all around near the bottom of the bottle. Make sure that the holes are of the same height from the bottle, as you can see in 11.16. Now fill the bottle with water. What do you observe? Do the different streams of water coming out of the holes fall in the same direction of the bottle? What does this indicate? So you can see here, liquid exert equal pressure at the same depth. So can you now say that the liquid exert pressure on the walls of the container? Do gases also exert pressure? Do they also exert pressure on the walls of the container? Let us find out. Bojo says, I have seen fountains of water coming out of leaking joint or holes in pipes supplying water. It is not due to the pressure exerted by water on the walls of the pipes. So when you inflate a balloon, why do you have to close its mouth? What happens when you open the mouth of an inflated balloon? Suppose you have a balloon which has holes. Would you be able to inflate it? So if not, why? Can you say that air exerts pressure in all direction? So do you recall what happened to the air in the bicycle tube when it has a puncture? So these observations suggest that the air exerts pressure on the inner wall of an inflated balloon or a tube? So we find that gases too exert pressure on the walls of their container. So now 11.10, atmospheric pressure. So you know that there is air all around us. This envelope of air is known as the atmosphere. The atmospheric air extends up to many kilometers above the surface of the earth. The pressure exerted by this air is known as the atmospheric pressure. We know that pressure is force per unit area. If we imagine a unit area and a very long cylinder standing on it filled with air, then the force of gravity on the air in this cylinder is the atmospheric pressure. So you can see in figure 11.17. So an atmospheric pressure is the force of gravity on air in a column of unit area. So you can see, but how large or small is the atmospheric pressure? Let us get an idea about the magnitude. So activity 11.11, take a good quality rubber sucker and it looks like a small rubber cup. As you can see in figure 11.18, press it hard on a smooth plain surface. Does it stick to the surface? Now try to pull it off from the surface. Can you do that? So you must have done that. A rubber sucker pressed on a surface. So now when you press the sucker, most of the air between its cup and the surface escapes out. So the sucker sticks to the surface because the pressure of the atmosphere acts on it. To pull the sucker off the surface, the applied force should be large enough to overcome the atmospheric pressure. This activity might give you the idea about the magnitude of atmospheric pressure. In fact, it would not be possible for any human being to pull the sucker off the surface if there were no air at all between the sucker and the surface. Does it give you the idea how large the atmospheric pressure is? So if the area of my head were 15 centimeter into 15 centimeter, how much force air will exert on my head? So the force due to the air in the column of the height of the atmosphere and the area is 15 centimeter into 15 centimeter as in figure 11.19 is nearly equal to the force of gravity on an object of mass 225 kg, that is 2250 N. The reason we are not crushed under the force of gravity is that the pressure inside our body is also equal to the atmospheric pressure, and it balances the pressure from the outside. So you can see pressure of atmosphere on our head. So you can see it in 11.19 figure. So do you know Otto von Guericke, a German scientist of the 17th century, invented a pump to extract air out of a vessel. So, with the help of this pump, he demonstrated dramatically the force of the air pressure. He joined two hollow metallic hemisphere of 51 centimeter diameter each and pumped air out of them. Then he employed 8 horses on each hemisphere to pull them apart, as in figure 11.20. So great is the force of the air pressure that the hemisphere could not be pulled apart. So you can see horses pulling the hemispheres. So here the chapter is finished, and we will start the next chapter in the next class.